We running, bro?
We're running, boss.
Sweet. So, dude, my idea was, and I've been thinking about doing something just a little bit different, like with this kind of podcast structure, which is like having somebody interesting, an interesting person from a profession of really any kind, but an interesting person from a profession. And then I want to take a little bit more of a backseat, and I want to learn about people, because my favorite podcasts are usually whenever I'm learning about somebody that I didn't even know I was interested in. Mm-hmm. So that's been kind of the idea for this this whole thing. And I apologize, you are numero uno. So if this sucks ass, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I mean, as an alien professional, we all know that aliens go hard on podcasts. So yeah,
aliens. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously they go hard on podcasts. Rogan has, I don't know, 100 million people.
Yeah, that's where I was going
obviously
with it,
aliens
right?
for sure. Yeah, big time. But kind of what I wanted to start out with, like, always when you hear about a professional from some field, you love to hear about like who they were, what made them who they were, and then like what are they doing now, and what are the interesting parts of their job, you know? Because honestly, dude, I've listened to a podcast, very popular podcast. It's Theo Vaughn. He had a garbage man on, and it was so fascinating. It was so interesting. He had a coroner on, which was like really, really interesting. And I was more glued to that than if he had like a movie celebrity on, you know?
Yeah, I've been to a morgue. It's a strange place.
No thanks, dude.
Yeah, I was special people to work there. I mean, God bless them, but
you have to be. You'd have to be special to be in the ER too, or neurotrauma, somewhere where you're going to see a lot of dead people. Because I've seen, I rolled up on one dead person. It was a freak thing that happened at work. It was, I was not supposed to find this person, or maybe I was, but I ran up to do work at this place, and the house is just like framed in and roughed in, you know, and boom, dead person hanging from the newly installed rafters. Shook me pretty bad. I couldn't imagine like all the time, you know, and I guess it's just like, you got to get numb to it, you know, and then you can proceed.
Right.
But you have to proceed if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to be able to mind over matter. No doubt, you know, and most of the time what you do is you don't ever get numb, but you just learn to compartmentalize, and you just set things aside, right? And then you stay in your little professional zone, right? Since we're talking about professional stuff.
Right, yeah.
Stay in that, you know, you're trained to stay in that lane. And then it really gives you, you're able to think, it gives you clarity, you're able to do your job. Doesn't mean that you don't have all of the normal kinds of human responses, right?
For sure.
But what you do is you keep them outside of that frame, and then, you know, you deal with them later, right? Which is where you get a lot of, you know, public service people and law enforcement or military, right? That's where you get a lot of PTSD, a lot of issues, perhaps, you know, later in life, just because you've pushed so much of that back there, right?
For sure.
You're working in that professional space. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I guess that's the important thing about compartmentalization, is because I said you get numb to it, which truthfully, getting numb to it will eventually just numb you to everything, even the positive. So you have to compartmentalize so that you can say, all right, this upsets me, but I'll deal with it tomorrow, but I will deal with it. And for now, I won't be numb, because otherwise I'd be numb to the joy of my family or whatever, you know? So I guess that's the importance there. Before we like jump too hard into it, I did a solo podcast last week, which it's tough, dude. It's tough because like just sitting and talking to the camera for 45 minutes, I'm like, the camera doesn't care about me, dude. You know? Maybe nobody listening even cares about me, but
that's right. That's why all the solo podcasters play a bunch of funny videos and then have a you laugh, you lose.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I think I lost. I think I lost, dude. No, I was gonna say I told him last week though that we had some pretty something pretty exciting happen,
right?
With the Purvcast, but we're this is kind of something new. It's Q&E, more questions and learning type of thing, but nonetheless still the same group here.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been talking to Grunt Style, the shirt that you're wearing.
Absolutely, love them. I've been wearing Grunt Style since long before Grunt Style was the thing that you did if you were cool, which it totally is.
For sure.
I was cool long before most everybody else was cool, right?
Absolutely. I filled out a influencer affiliate paperwork for Grunt Style, which was, kind of surreal and cool to do. But one of the questions was, how'd you hear about Grunt Style? And I said, my brother, who is an Army veteran, has been wearing your stuff for as long as you guys have had stuff.
That's right.
And that's the first place I saw it. And I'm jazzed. I love the stuff too. But I told Grant at one point, I felt for a little while, because I'm not a vet, Ashley would ask me, do you want some Grunt Style? And I'd be like, no, I can't wear Grunt Style. I'm not a veteran. So I felt like I felt like it was stolen valor if I wore Grunt Style.
Right. And
then eventually they blew up so much that it was like, nah, you just gotta be a patriot.
That's it.
And and embrace masculinity, and you're in.
Yeah. In other words, you have to get off drugs for just long enough to be able to see the light, and then you realize that, oh, this is what smart normal people do.
Yeah.
They put these cross rifles on their shoulder and they roll. Which I actually have those cross rifles tattooed for real on that shoulder.
Yeah, you're just backwards on it.
That's right.
For sure. It's cool, but we're talking to him, so I want to announce that.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
fired up on it. I was supposed to have, I was talking to him, and they thought that they would have us the care package of swag to us by today, and I was stoked. I told him, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it to my brother who's a vet live on the podcast, and they were jazzed on that. They thought that was sweet. It didn't get here, so it's not a big deal. You've got a T-shirt coming. It's
awesome.
It's freaking sweet. So
it's awesome. Well, I tell you what, I was the hit this Christmas because I rolled out in my Grunt Style Big Nick Energy shirt, and that's where it's at right there.
For sure, man.
Love it.
They asked one of the questions they asked was like, what aligns you with Grunt Style, and why are you guys cohesive? And I just said patriotism laced in humor, and a love of masculinity also laced in humor.
See, if I would have filled that out, I would have just said infantry leads the way, period.
Yeah, I couldn't say that though. Well,
you could. I mean, because,
I guess
because it's not a statement of identity; it's a statement of fact. It's the truth.
You're right. Yeah, I guess I guess that is true. However, I am drastically terrified of stolen valor. So every step of the way, I'm like, can I drink Black Rifle coffee? Can I buy it, or are they going to ask for my military ID? You know what?
If you drink enough of it, you might just pop one out.
Well, yeah, maybe so, dude.
Yeah, you never know.
I'd never be so lucky, dude.
Yeah.
I'd never be so lucky.
No, I mean, here's the thing. Infantry leads the way. Whether you're watching or you're running,
you're leading the way.
They're still leading the way, right?
You're either cheering for the leader or you are the leader.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's like saying, there goes Mahomes.
Yeah,
you don't have to be Mahomes to say,
that's my boy.
He's the best. Right.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, I'm with you for sure. I mean, I've come around on it. Honestly, dude, you could get stolen valor from. We have a lot of stolen valor actually in today's society.
We do.
We have a lot of stolen valor, gender wise. Gender-wise, there's a ton. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. You know, there's theft, no doubt.
Right.
You know. Then there's also people who fell off the playground when they were kids and their parents never took them to the ER.
That's not stealing, dude. That's getting stolen from.
That's called sympathy. That's just where all of our hearts should hurt.
Oh, my heart hurts there. Absolutely.
Like, I mean, you know, and that's where I've gotten with a lot of this stuff nowadays that is so maniacal it doesn't even make sense. Where I don't even try to understand it, and I don't try to, you know, I don't even try to take some sort of a counter position.
Right.
But I just look at it and I'm like, oh, man. Like, oh, that poor individual.
You know, that's the best way that you could go about it, though. Literally just be like, oh, really? My gosh, man, I fell off the playground equipment a couple times when I was a kid, but I guess I just didn't. Guess I didn't hit as hard as you. Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. Like that's...
Yeah. I was fatter and I bounced.
Yeah, for sure. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I didn't have a black rifle. You know?
Well, boom. That's what in the infantry we would call an accidental discharge. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah, there's a lot of accidentals, man. A lot of accidentals. But
you fall off the playground. Boom! I'm a girl.
Yeah.
And now we know how these things occur.
Yeah.
You know.
It's all these steel playground equipment pieces that are at schools. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean,
CTE. We've been going down the wrong thing for CTE. I mean, they talk about football. They should have been on playgrounds MMA. 50 years ago.
Playgrounds are insane. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, dude. Whenever we want to go play on the playground, I have to take my girls to the special needs handicap playground just to feel comfortable with them going and hitting the activities.
And then the problem is you get over there and there's a whole platoon of Marines and, you know, it's...
Yeah, dude. That's right, dude. Getting pushed around in their wheelchairs.
No, they're artists.
They're
studying.
Yeah,
they're studying.
My little girls are just wailing on them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we see in infantry, we see in 4 colors, Army infantry, you know, red, white, blue, and green.
Okay.
They got the whole crayon box, right? I mean, they're more into the pastels and
mixing colors.
That's right.
Are they into mixing colors?
Yeah. Where do you think we got mixing genders?
The Marines?
Probably.
Probably.
I'm sure they were laying around on some fob, probably in Kuwait. You know,
that's a weird way to spell it.
While 3rd Infantry Division is pushing through Iraq, you know, doing real work. You know, they were probably sitting out there waiting for their 30 minutes of fame, and you know, they probably invented the whole thing.
They invented 30 minutes of fame while they were waiting for their Prismacolors. Their color pencils.
That's right.
I can't say anything because I'm not a vet, but I'm
you can be biased.
Like you said,
though.
I am. What did you say? I'm a support. It's like Mahomes. I'm a fan. I'm cheering for you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. You're just speaking the obvious.
Right.
You know?
That was a touchdown. Mm-hmm. That was roughing the passer. Like,
infantry leads the way.
Marines are waiting for their Prismacolors.
Mm-hmm.
That was gay. That was gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Exactly. Sometimes you just get on the mic and spit it.
For sure, dude. Infantry leads the way to the Marines. That was gay.
Yes.
How about that?
Ooh. Hey, grunt style.
I mean, T-shirt?
Yeah. Let's go.
I gotta hit them up because it is the infantry patch on all their. Is that infantry specific.
It is. As a matter of fact, so grunt is what they used to call Army infantry guys, right?
Right.
So I was a grunt, right?
Yep.
Still am. Grunt for life, which is why I was wearing...
GFL, baby.
Yeah, which is why I was wearing grunt style, because I was like, oh, well, that's my style. It says it right there in the name, in the title, right?
Kind of have to.
Yeah. And then it became...
kind of like if somebody came out and they were like ugly style. I'd be like, well, guess I'm buying that.
Yeah. Well,
it's my brand.
Ugly style. Yeah. You know what? You probably just invented a thing right there.
Yeah, I'm guessing so, dude.
Yeah, probably so.
Hey, real quick, before you keep going.
Yeah.
You said you've been wearing grunt style since the beginning.
Yeah.
Can you remember the first time, like when it was you got your first grunt style?
Oh man, that's a great question. That's a great question. You know, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was probably 2011, 12, something around that, maybe 13, but it was in that time frame, right?
Do you remember what it was?
Oh man, the first grunt style shirt I ever got. Boy, I don't. And
how did you get it?
They did a raid.
No, so I've got that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. We raided
A grunt style store?
we raided a Marine compound, and they had a picture. They had a mannequin up there, like in the shrine built to him, and on his
what a real man was supposed to look like?
Yes, up above the title was "A Real Man," and then he had this grunt style shirt, and we ripped it off of him. We were like, "We've got to have those." You know,
They're worshiping the infantry patch.
yeah. And they were all running around in shirts that said "not worthy." My ASVAB was too low.
Yeah.
Nike made those.
Did you say my ass fat was too low?
No, the aptitude test you have to take. Yeah. Well, but there's always that too. Wait, is that the opposite of a fupa?
Ass fat too low? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the exact opposite,
Okay,
dude.
reciprocating
Yeah, for sure.
bulges.
Sitting on the opposite corner.
Anyways, get in here. It's the pod.
Yeah, get in here, it's the pod. My gosh,
Jeez,
we're
dude.
Sounds we're talking about the Air Force all of a sudden now. We started talking about random stuff sitting around.
just a bunch of I mean, but remember, Finzo, this is Q&E.
I'm just saying.
This isn't the pod.
Dude. Do what you want, dude.
No, I'm playing for sure. Get in here, dude.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to leave my mic on so somebody can hear me crying and laughing.
Yeah, you got to. Finzo's dying, man. Yeah, Andrew's killing us at the moment.
I mean, the truth hurts. What can I say? I mean, sometimes it's just,
Hey,
it's there.
What do you think about the Navy?
That's the Marine Corps.
Come again? The Who? That's actually the name of a good band.
I love the Who.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Navy have really cool ships.
For sure.
They're big.
They are big.
Yeah. And they do. And I love fishing, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
but they're too big for fishing.
Actually, of all the branches,
right.
I have a softer spot in my heart for the Navy than probably any of the other like support services to the Army.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
the other props.
Yeah.
What you'd say?
Exactly. All the other branches in the rear with the gear.
Yeah.
And
Mama and the older two sisters.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
My sister's an Army vet, so I can laugh at this too.
Yeah, for sure.
So but I have a soft spot because
so is mine.
There was a Navy dog handler who came. There's a Navy dog handler who brought his dog.
Right.
And he was a bomb sniffing dog. And back in Iraq, right, when IEDs were thick and we were really trying to adapt, to deal with these things, having the presence of that dog and that dog handler with us at times was just a real comforting thing. And that dog was absolutely awesome. I mean, 1 minute he's laying on the seat panting, and the next minute he's, snapped up at attention, and you're stopping, the Humvee dead in your tracks, right? So,
and he's saving your life.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and that dog handler was awesome dude, right? So, props to the Navy on that.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's so cool. I know that. Well, and whenever you get into obviously the talking is fun, But then when you get into that situation, everybody serves a purpose, and I know that it becomes there's still rivalry, but in those situations when it's life and death, you're thankful to see the other people that might have an expertise. I'm sure. I don't know. I'm sure that you're thankful to see the people that have an expertise in a different field or specialty.
Absolutely. I mean, the stuff the Air Force does is spectacular. And, the Marines, you read about their history, right? The stuff they've done. And those guys, every branch of the military has their studs and their duds, right?
Right.
But by and large, they're studs. And, they've just got incredible people who do incredible things for very, very little money, right? Yeah. Pennies an hour at times, right? When you're deployed and you're, going on missions and raids and you're, patrols, whatever it is, you're 24/7 just grind. Really, you're at work from the time you leave home until you get back, right? Yeah. Well, if you take what some, 40 grand or 50 grand or whatever somebody's making a year and you average it out over all of that time, if we nothing. Worked our jobs at our pay rates, right, for that amount of time, it would amount to something,
right?
But no, it's just, it's pretty amazing. Awesome individuals. And that's one of the things that I like about Grunt Style, love about Black Rifle, is I think they've brought that community together, and then they've brought other people together who can be a part of that. Because what you were asking me as kind of being an outsider is actually an important question, because I think that people who didn't serve but really, kind of at the heart level identify and appreciate them, there's a certain amount of validation that we get from people who didn't go whenever they see this tight, military culture that we have, and they're like, man, that is down, right? That is awesome. It's something I want to be a part of. I just love being with these guys. It really is big for somebody. I like Grunt Style and their Grunt Fest. Such a cool event, bringing people together. Not everybody there's a veteran. Most people probably are, but the bands they have come in and play. For all of that stuff is just very validating for people who at times lived a very unusual existence, and sometimes wonder, okay, where do I fit in, right? Where's my place? Because, for me, I go to work and I sit in a boardroom at work and have conversations, and I'm the only veteran in there, not always, but in a lot of situations.
Right.
And there's always that where you're like, okay, am I the odd one out, right? Am I kind of unique here? And so I think it's very encouraging, it's very uplifting, and validating. And that's why, the work that companies like Grunt Style are doing, Black Rifle, whatever it may be, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. Cause it, first off, I feel like, I'm so appreciative of everything that any veteran's ever done. Cause that's such a, it's a massive sacrifice. And I'm always appreciative, so knowing what they do and them Black Rifle do for vets, like just, please take my money over anybody. Take my money, because you're going to go to the people that, truthfully, without the military existence, none of this, we're not sitting here having a podcast in my house.
Right.
Without years and years of people that were willing to drop it and leave it and go, so I love the brands, dude. I was fired up that, Grunt Style even talk to us,
Yeah, for sure. No, and props to them, good people doing good stuff, right?
For sure.
So,
yeah.
That's what it's all about. And, but it's great to talk about it, though. And I think that more veterans, more people need to get kind of pulled into that circle.
Yeah.
But I tell you really what Grunt Style and groups like that are doing is they're pulling the curtain back on the locker room, right? And so the culture that those companies put out there for everyone to be a part of, that's the culture that was in, my infantry training brigade at, Sand Hill, right, at Fort Benning, Georgia. Right. That was the culture that was in my, infantry platoon, right?
Sure, yeah.
And a lot of this is just, hey, this cool thing has been going on inside these really tight-knit teams for a long time, and we think that the world would like this. We think, and sure enough, I mean, it's incredible culture, right?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that is cool. And that kind of culture and leadership and masculinity is a part of it as well. All those things.
Toxic
masculinity. Yeah. Poison, gaseous masculinity. But those type of things are absolutely present in something that's going to, have success, and it's no surprise that these two companies, which I'm about done kissing their ass, but, obviously there's incredible traits that come from that kind of environment to produce people that are able to lead a company in the way that they are.
Yeah.
I did want to, and I know the answer to a lot of these questions, but I find you've had a fascinating existence, and so I wanted to back up a little bit, right? If most of the Purvcast listeners actually are probably dumb enough that they haven't picked up on the fact yet that you are a veteran, you served in the Army, you got deployed to Baghdad, Iraq, back in Operation Iraqi Freedom. But backing up to that, I wanted to get like some history, and because I love seeing, when I listen to something, I love seeing the picture of, and being able to make this mental picture of who I'm listening to. You know what I mean? So my idea was like, dude, give me just a couple seconds of 0 to 10. And your 0 to 10 is very different than mine, even though we're brothers. They're drastically different. But like a little breakdown of like 0 to 10, little breakdown of 10 to 20, and then, a little breakdown of 20 to 30, and then 30 to current. Like,
as far as like age,
yeah, I guess I thought that was the best way to break it down of like your history as a human being, like, where you were born and raised, where you are, your mom and dad, did they stay married? Did you have siblings? Like, those are the kind of things that people that I find interesting, and so that's what I want people to be able to hear and know, then I think that helps to like just kind of build, so a synopsis of those things I think can build to like more constructive conversation about where you're at now, after that.
Right, for sure. No, I gotcha. I'm going to kind of skim through quickly like the first 20, right? Not that it's not important. That's probably a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
Completely different episode.
For sure. Yeah.
But it was definitely formidable, right? Being the oldest brother, second child in a family of 9 children, lots of early responsibility. And, just not that I necessarily handled it well, but, dad needed help, mom needed help, right? Yeah. We did what we had to do. Now, greatest experience on earth. Siblings are the greatest thing, I mean, they're your best friends. Sometimes it's hard to make friends because no friends are ever quite as awesome as your siblings, right? And you just kind of have these things, that you just mesh and you click and
it just works. I just wish you weren't so ugly.
I know. Now we're back to that. Yeah.
It's a theme.
It is. But
I'm a Pugly.
Yeah.
Purvis Ugly.
Pugly.
That's me. I'm gonna make a T-shirt. Pugly.
I like it.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. All right. We just sold the first 1,000 shirts. One of the things that I was exposed to as a young child was biographies and reading about people, right? And I spent a lot of my youth, right, like my school years, digesting a lot of history and a lot of stories, a lot of things about great people. And one of the things that I took away from all of that exposure, was that I don't want to read about it. I don't want to watch a film about it. I want to do it, right? And I've always kind of had that mentality that, okay, it's great to read the story about somebody else doing it, but I want to have that feeling myself of what it's actually like to be there and in those moments, right? And I think that desire, you could call it a curiosity, whatever it may be, at times was enough to overcome a lot of fears that I had, because I think I grew up a pretty fearful child, right? Grew up with a lot of phobias of all different kinds of things and scared of all different kinds of things. But I think that curiosity and that desire to live it ultimately was a stronger force inside of me than a lot of the fear, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, I ended up going down a lot. I mean, goodness, my life has definitely not ended up like I thought it would be whenever I was younger. Matter of fact, I'll never forget, my older sister and I were having a conversation one time. I think it was about 16. And I told her the two things I never want to do in my life: I never want to be in the military, and I never want to be a cop, because I don't know why anybody would volunteer to get shot at. I did both of those things, right?
And that was, I guess, before you fell off the playground equipment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I cratered it. But
there had to have been a change at some point, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'll tell you what the change was. I was going through life, college, school, and working jobs, and I didn't have a passion about any of it, right?
Yeah.
Just it was obligatory. It's like, okay, well, you got to get a degree at some point, or you got to get some sort of education. At least that's what they tell me. Now, that's a completely other podcast, because somebody who used to teach college, we can have a conversation about those things, right?
Sure,
and
yeah.
a lot of the scam that's taking place in this country.
Yeah.
But at the time, you don't know very much, and you just kind of do what you think you're supposed to do in life.
It's also difficult without a sense of direction. You're craving one, but I know this from personal experience. It's tough when there is no sense of direction.
That's right.
You crave it.
That's right.
But it's just not there.
That's exactly right. And then, the beautiful thing about the military is that there's this thing called the mission. And that's a whole nother podcast, but the mission is incredible. As a matter of fact, that's probably the biggest beacon in my life today, right? I don't necessarily work for people. Yes, I have a boss, and that boss has a boss, and we have, I work for a company, and we have corporate goals and all of those things. But at the end of the day, I'm judged based on my performance against what the mission is, right? The objectives. And it's that objective that keeps me going every day, right? And so the military gave me that and changed my life, right? Because now I had a new way of thinking about things, right? It's like, give me a mission, right? But really it was 9/11. I mean, I was just going through the motions, just working my job and, just kind of dragging super slow-mo through, the first couple of years of college. And then,
aimless.
That's right. The phone rang one morning at about 7:00, and I was managing a pizza place, and we closed it down at like 3, and then I got home about 4. So I'd been asleep for like 3 hours, and phone rang. And it was Mom, and she was like, hey, you need to turn on the TV and see what was going on, right? And the first tower had been hit, and I'm sitting there watching it. So the plane goes into the second tower. And I just remember thinking at the time, okay, there's just going to be a war somewhere. This just doesn't happen without somebody going down, without us fighting somebody.
You don't just forgive this.
Right, exactly. I mean, this is, you think about the things that have started other wars in history, right? I mean, that was... what started the shot that started World War I was a whole lot less than that, right?
Yeah, so, and Nam, a whole,
Exactly. So, I mean, something like that. It was, and I just, kind of heard this voice inside of me that said, okay, and it was based on all of that exposure to, all of that history and reading about great people. It was like, okay, this is my turn. right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was just like, this is my generation. This is my turn. I knew nothing about anything, but I knew that I didn't want to sit behind a desk. But I knew that, I wanted to be out there where the action was. I wanted to experience it because I wanted to come away with the feeling that I had contributed whatever I had. And, what I have is not nearly as talented as a lot of these guys out there who do some incredible stuff. But I wanted to give whatever I did have, right, to be able to contribute because it was my generation's fight, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
My generation's turn. And then that just completely, changed the trajectory of my life. And, I fell in love with that concept of the mission and the team and the camaraderie and, going out every day and having a sense of purpose, right?
Absolutely,
yeah. You are there with this team, with these guys, and you are single-minded in your efforts. And that's a wonderful thing, it's something that we would be a lot more effective in our society in general if we could develop that single-mindedness, right, where we're able to work together as a team towards. I think it's one of the reasons Americans love athletics so much. It's because they see athletes united for a single purpose whenever they struggle so much in their own personal lives, whether it's in their marriage, to be individuals yet united towards a single purpose, whether it's in their relationships with their children, whatever it may be, right? Yeah. Even you go into the average workplace today, and now everybody is, oh, well, I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel valued. It's me, right? And that's why everybody's so nomadic. And if you've been at a job for a year, you're probably the old timer there nowadays.
Yeah, you're
right?
a vet.
Yeah, you are. And it's because that single vision and purpose and going out and accomplishing that as a team. And I think it's something that corporations are struggling with. I think it's one of the things that's holding a lot of companies back, is because we become so individually focused and focused on, well, I'm this, and this, and I'm this, and this.
Right.
And I've got all of these different, traits, and you've got all these different traits. Well, we're very different people, and we need to be celebrated in our individualism within this space, yet within this space.
And let's focus on the most different.
Yeah, that's right.
Whatever.
That's right. And we're going to highlight what divides us.
For sure.
And say it's celebrating, but at the end of the day, it's deteriorating whenever we should be coming together as a group, yes, of very diverse individuals, but coming together for a single-minded purpose. That, you know what, if this is the goal of the company, if the company wants to experience this much growth within this time frame, we are single-minded, working together as a team to go out and to accomplish that mission and that objective. And so I think people see that deteriorating,
right.
But then they see the culture that comes out of the military, they see the culture in athletics, and they're drawn to that. They gravitate towards that because this concept of teamwork is and cohesion. Man, it's a lost art
for sure.
Right?
Fortunately, Pifty and I know, well about that because we were blessed to be teammates in high school. That was a blessing that wasn't around yet whenever you were coming up, And so I would imagine, like we got to work together towards one goal, and we got to achieve that goal together multiple times, and that was incredible. But it is wild because you're literally like, I would rather throw 4 interceptions and win this game than throw 6 interceptions and lose it. Right? I'll sacrifice for me so that we can get it.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. I hope I said that right. But
a lot of interceptions. You must have had a good running back.
I did, dude. Yeah.
Did you mean 6 touchdowns and lose it?
Yeah. 6 touchdowns.
Okay, I was confused there for a minute. I was like, man,
you would rather throw 4 picks and win than throw 6 touchdowns and lose.
Yeah, there you go.
Gotcha.
Because it was about us as a unit,
that's
as
right.
a team, not me. And that's probably the most selfless I've been was as a teammate and a member of a cohesive unit like that.
That's right. That's right. That's right. When you're, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his friend.
Right.
And when you are living in that mindset where you're like, no, I prefer you. You go first. You go first. If the arguments that you have are over who gets to eat first in the chow line, because each one of you is like, no, you go first. You go first.
Right.
Right. That is the key to being effective at what you do, because we are living for each other. And believe it or not, I can watch your back better than you can watch your back.
Absolutely. I've never even thought about that, but it's so spot on.
Right.
Because you can have perspective that I am incapable of having.
That's right.
Which is massive.
That's right. And our backs are our weaknesses, but if we watch each other's weaknesses, then our strengths overcompensate the weaknesses that we have, right?
That's right, yeah.
Which is the true definition in my book of diversity. Diversity is valuing the strengths that someone else has that you don't have, but realizing that together, collectively, it serves a greater purpose and it allows all of us to achieve at a higher level.
For sure. Right? Yeah. It's more complete in total, which is, which is awesome. I mean, talking to you about the teamwork, obviously that's a huge thing. We are lucky that we've got an awesome dad and two other brothers.
Oh, so no doubt.
We have our own team.
That's right.
Which is solid and, loves the Lord, loves family. All that came from dad. But we're blessed to have that kind of team.
Oh, incredible. And, Dad being a coach, right? When we were all out there cutting grass for Dad, it was a team, right? He would give us a plan and he'd be like, okay, what do you think is the best strategy and approach? And yes, we were doing work, but it didn't matter because we were all out there. We were all out there single-minded, right? And,
that's right. Yeah.
It was so working with Dad. Dad is he screams military, right?
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't, because just his thought process and as he's so systematic, right? And Dad would he would give me these signs, right? He had all these different signs that meant I'm going to go do this, or you need to go do that, right? Yeah. We wouldn't even have to talk. He'd just signal me.
I'm going to go lean against the house and have diarrhea.
yeah, that's sign. Yeah. Or
I got that one a lot.
We need to get to the gas station in 30 seconds.
Yeah. He's going 31 won't work.
That's right.
For sure, man. Do you think part of your interest in joining the military and being a part of a mission and a team like that some of it subconsciously might have stemmed from like you loved athletics and football,
no doubt,
growing up, and at the time that those opportunities they weren't there for you. They came right behind you. I would imagine, if I put myself in your instance, that I look at that and, like you said, as a member of the public, you look at teams and what a team can do as a unit, and you've got to go, I want to be part of that.
That's right. No doubt. Well, I also had a huge chip on my shoulder, right? Because, I was the oldest brother and I had three younger brothers who were all these, who were all bigger than me and these big, specimen athletes, right? And here I am, the guy who came first and the opportunities weren't there to play. And yet in my mind, I was like, man, I am by far the toughest son that Dad has, right? Like, so it's like, all right, well, how else are you going to prove? I think there's that verse in the scriptures that talks about the glory of young men is their strength, and the glory of us old guys is our gray hair, which is a
wisdom,
a sign of wisdom. Yeah, exactly, and it's so true, right? As a young man, you have to be physically engaged, right? Yes. You have to have a certain amount of physical exertion. We learn better under physical exertion. Yep. We control impulse and everything better with that regular physical exertion, Absolutely, and that's why if you're not in the gym, you need to be. If you don't have a workout plan, you need to be, right? There is no excuse for fat dad. None. You have to model to your children the lifestyle that you hope they will live. You can't be on the sidelines weighing 4 bills whenever you're out there screaming at your kid to work out harder so he can make the football team.
True, especially not when you're 5'4".
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what you call a snowball.
Yeah. Frosty.
I'd get out of the way. Just don't stand downhill and you'll be all right.
For sure, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you had to do something to prove your superiority. You know.
Yeah.
You certainly had to do that because what mom and dad told me was they had you and they were like, I think we can do a little better. Then they had Grant and they were like, okay, well,
we can definitely do better.
yeah, for sure. They had Grant and they were like, well, step in the right direction, I guess. And then they had Justin. They went, whoa, way too far.
Dad went, I want a DNA test.
Yeah, for sure.
And then they had you, and they were like, "Okay, this is about right. We got it. Yeah, nailed it. All right, this is both of our biological child right here, and he's got all the attributes, right?
Yeah, there it is, dude.
Yeah,
you want to piss?
Yes, that'd be great.
Hit it. I think we'll move into more like your current career.
Yeah,
because actually, I don't know near as much about what you are currently doing day in and day out as I would like to know, you know. So this portion of things will be, you know, certainly an education and re-education for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to, you know, dive into that. And you don't, if you don't want to, you don't need to name your company.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, I understand that. I never name my employer just because I'm like, oh,
yeah, I probably won't. You know,
try to just give the, you know, ins and outs of it. You can do that without saying that, you know, if you're, you know, more comfortable with that.
Exactly. And, you know, it's kind of, what I do is not tied directly to a certain company, right? It's a profession, it's a career. And, you know, I've provided the service for different companies, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so it's not tied to one particular industry or anything like that, you know?
Right. And tell me exactly what that is. It is health, and
it's EHS is what they call it, environmental health and safety.
Right.
Yeah. And I never thought of that as a career option, right?
Right.
But it actually is kind of a cool blending of a lot of skill sets that I picked up along my journey in life, right?
Yeah.
You know, like my, you know, all of my background and time, you know, in law enforcement, and then, you know, my time in grad school and studying those things, Homeland Security, you know, and, you know, kind of being involved with all of those. Eventually you kind of move into the risk assessment, you know, portion of things. Right. And, teaching, I've done a lot of teaching over the course of my life, whether it was, you know, teaching, you know, individual movement technique lanes in the military, or, you know, whether it was teaching, you know, police cycling and, you know, helping out with defensive tactics when I was a cop, or whether it was actually teaching, you know, classes in college, you know, at a university. You know, there's a whole teaching aspect to it. So it's kind of cool in that it just blends a lot of different skill sets. And I think EHS as a career, we feed into, you know, it's its own discipline, but we have people come into it from a lot of other disciplines, right? So law enforcement feeds into it, nursing feeds into it, public health feeds into it.
It's a collective
management. That's right. There's a lot of it, you know,
of diverse people, or people with diverse skills.
Exactly.
As well. Yeah,
exactly. You know, and a lot of it is being able to understand, regulations, right? And because, you know, there are a ton. I mean, let's face it. America is probably the most litigious society to ever exist, right? We have more laws than probably any society in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Right? And then it even compounds when you get into regulations and local ordinances. Well, you know, if you're going to go do a project let's say you're going to go do a major construction project in a certain location. Well, you obviously have federal jurisdictions that you're going to apply, you know, depending on what you're doing. And then, you know, depending on what kind of a company you are, you're going to have state, you're going to have, you know, county, you're going to have municipal, right?
Absolutely,
and then you're going to have clients who have policies.
And HOA. Yeah. HOA requirements.
Yeah, everything, right?
Yeah,
everything. And then all the way eventually you've got individual landowners, right? So if you're, you know, and they may have something for you. Insurance companies, you know, the people who are absorbing a lot of that, you know, the financial impact of that risk, they're going to have a whole whole group of stuff. So you kind of have to be the melting pot for all of those different things and make sure that you're looking out for the company's back door, because
for sure,
just because you're producing a product or you are providing a service and you're making progress doesn't mean that you're making money. If you're losing more than you're making because you're getting people hurt and you're getting fined,
right?
You're living in kind of a false reality, right? And so really, we're talking about having each other's back as part of a team. It's what we do in EHS and the service that we provide is having the company's back, right? We serve a role and really try to make sure that we're compliant,
right,
and that the company is ultimately successful, right?
For sure.
But that starts by making sure that each individual employee is successful, because good companies are comprised of good individuals, right? So as our individual employees find success in their careers, the company finds success. Yeah. You're not going to find a successful company that is not comprised of successful people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Successful employees, right? And so those are the building blocks, right? Yeah. And so we have to make sure they are doing well and they're taken care of, and they're going to contribute to the mission and outcome the company desires.
For sure. Yeah. And even if you have a good group of people, if they're always going on DART injury, DART days away, restricted time, then they're of no use.
Yeah.
Or I hate to even put it that way, because, but they're not, they don't help the big picture.
That's right. I mean, if you push production to such a point that that half your crew gets hurt,
right,
then you are not going to be successful long term. And I guarantee you those individuals are not going to be any better off as well, right?
Right, yeah.
Generally, companies who have really low injury rates are going to have much higher employee retention rates. Right. As your recordable injury incident rate or whatever, as that goes up, there's generally a correlation with employee dissatisfaction and turnover, right? Because, well, I don't want to work someplace if they're going to tell me to do a lot of things that are going to end up jeopardizing my health and my ability to do my job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because at the end of the day, for all of us, our income is built on our ability to wake up every morning and go do our job. Yeah. Well, if we physically can't do that, then most of us are not going to sit around. We're going to find something else that we can do within the limitations that we've currently got.
For sure, yeah. So in EHS, environmental health and safety, I'm assuming that each one of those EHS is split into different. You have 3 different categories that you have to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
they're not just pushed into one. I'm sure that there's specific focus on each different group. What is your favorite? Like, if you had to pick, I'm going environment for the next 5 years. I'm going health for the next 5 years. Safety. Of those 3, what's your favorite? What would you go with?
Safety by far, because safety is a lot more black and white.
Right.
It's going to be, the
less opinion.
Sure. Yes, and it's going to be, I think, less complicated, right?
Yeah.
So you work with engineering to come up with good procedures, for how something is supposed to be done, how a piece of equipment is supposed to be operated properly, and then you train that. And as long as that is executed, then you're not going to have any issues. If you deviate, then you're going to have issues. But it's clear when you go and you investigate the issue, you can go back to, okay, this is where we went wrong. Environment. There's some aspects of it that are similar to that, right? Environment, though, is so changing because environmental regulations, safety regulations to a little bit, right? But not nearly to the extent of the environmental regulations. They change constantly because they're so political and they're so tied to kind of the political cycle, right?
Absolutely.
That things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And so it's really
and not
really,
thoroughly communicated either. Like when it comes to requirements and things.
Yeah, that's for sure. And frankly, I just think that the environmental regulations are a lot more ambiguous at times. They are written. They're written to where they're a lot harder to really dissect, and they're just not as engaging, I think,
for sure,
safety, right? I mean, the cool thing about safety is that you're interacting with individuals, right? Yeah. You're interacting with human beings. I can go out there and I can say, okay, you know what? We're going to have a crack team here. We are going to train hard, and we are going to hold ourselves accountable, and we are going to be disciplined, and we are going to communicate well, and we're going to develop a culture of hazard identification, hazard reporting, immediate corrective actions, and responsiveness from management. And we can be proactive, on that end. With environmental regulations, it's just kind of like, okay, we're going to do what we're told.
For sure, yeah.
Right. I mean, we're just there's you're interacting with stuff as opposed to people. When it comes to safety. Now, I don't mean to pour cold water on the environmental portion of it. I do not consider myself to be an environmentalist. I consider myself to be a conservationist. Right.
Yeah.
Because I do think that it's very important that we are good stewards of the resources that we have. Frankly, when you get into it and you start to study what is in a lot of our water, what is in a lot of our air that we breathe, and you look at case studies where some of these things that some industries have done to, have had a really bad impact on some communities, right? I mean, if we are not careful and if we're not good stewards, and the reason I think there are so many laws and so many regulations and it's so contentious now is because some companies have not been good stewards of the communities that they live in, right? Every business needs to realize they are an employer, they are a neighbor in the community they live in, and they have a responsibility to make the lives of their employees and their neighbors better by virtue of their presence. And there's a lot of great companies out there that take that seriously and that do a great job. I think it's a lot smaller percentage that get consumed with how much money can we make and how much money can we not spend on doing what's right and responsibilities, and end up kind of giving industry and business a black eye,
right?
Because it's always those few apples, right? That spoil the whole batch.
It's just like, we did just absolutely scraped across the top of this, but you were a police officer, which was, I would imagine, more difficult than being a soldier.
It was,
in my opinion. And I think you told me that, but you were a great cop. I know you. Obviously you were. Then you get one bad dude halfway across the world.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, you're ruined in it. So yeah, it truly is the power of the few that spoils the many. But that's where maturity, and that's where, again, we have to be mentally disciplined, right? We cannot make decisions based on isolated events and stories. We cannot make good decision making is never going to be anecdotal. Right. Which unfortunately is what you hear in politics nowadays, right? If a candidate gets up and is campaigning and they're out with the family of somebody who had something bad happen under their opponent's watch, right? To me, that is focusing on one isolated situation. But at the end of the day, it's for their gain. It's for political gain. Yeah. It's not for society gain. If we're going to get up there and we're going to tell a story, some heartbreaking story about something terrible that happened to somebody, but hey, if you reelect me and my policies, guess what? We'll put an end to that. Maturity is being able to look through that and realize, no, they're probably not, because one person doesn't have that kind of power, right? But whenever we make decisions based on just a very small portion of our population or just a few isolated situations, if we vote for somebody because we've heard some stories that make us sad about some people who, had some really bad things happen to them, we're not being smart voters. At the end of the day, we have to step back and look at the entire forest instead of just the tree, and project, okay, what impact is this policy going to have,
5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
For sure,
on the entire forest, right?
Yep.
Because if the forest is healthy, the odds of all of us being a healthy tree in that forest is much greater, right? Than us saying, well, we're going to cut the entire forest down because that tree over there is sick.
Yeah. That's an insane analogy. That's incredible. I actually talked to this. I don't even think this is not a good even representation to throw in here, but I'll do it anyway. It's a podcast. We can cut it out. But I talked to a buddy that he had land that he hunted on since he was a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like 100 acres or something like that. And they found a deer that was within a mile of that property that had chronic wasting. They came in and he said they camped on that property for 2 weeks and they used automatic weapons, every weapon that you could imagine, and they killed every single deer on that.
And essentially, maybe it was bad policies that got us there in the first place, right? I mean, we could go back and, again, I think we have to unpack some of these things and say, okay, what got us here in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's not enough of that in our society today, right?
Right.
Take the price of goods and services. I read an article today, and it was showing the price of food items in 2021 versus the price of food items today, right?
Yep.
And I think it was like a pound of butter back then was like $3. A pound of butter now is like $5, right?
Right.
So what we want to say is, oh my goodness, that's too much for a pound of butter. How do we get back to paying $3 a pound like we were in 2021? What we need to be asking is, what got us to where we're at, right? Going back to my career, I do that a lot. So let's say we have an injury or we have a notice of violation, right? When it comes to some sort of a permit, then we have to go out and we have to investigate that.
Right.
I have to work my way back. So you start at, okay, here's where we're at today.
Right.
And how did we get back? There's different things you'll hear, like your 5 whys, root cause analysis, tap roots, all the different things that people use in the industry. And it's this stair-stepping backwards so that we can see all of the missteps along the way.
For sure, yeah.
And then we get back to that root cause. And the root cause is generally some sort of a behavioral or a cultural issue.
Right.
Right? It always is going to come back to the culture of a company or a group or, leadership or something like that, right?
Right.
And how did that attitude potentially or behavior then begin to breed all of these physical dominoes that just started to fall, and now we've arrived at where we're at today. And so I think we need to be willing to take that introspective look at times, but in order to do that, we have to set aside a lot of things, right? Number one is we have to set aside the presumption that we all love to have in our pride of being right all the time,
right?
And realize that none of us are right. We were talking about the military, and we're talking about athletics. It takes a great amount of humility if you're going to be the best, because it means you have looked in the mirror at your own weaknesses more
for forever
than anybody else, right? And that's exactly what we did in the infantry. Whenever we would be training together as a team, we would go and we would conduct some sort of an exercise together, right, as a group.
Yeah.
And then we would come back and we would have what's called an after-action review. And we would take a piece of butcher block paper and we draw a line down the center. And on one side, you write improve. On the other side, you write sustain. And then we go around, and everybody, it was open forum. You could talk about yourself. You could talk about the group. You could talk about other individuals. Hey, I think you did this well. So that's a sustain. We need to continue to do that. I think you could use to improve on this area. So that's an improve for us.
Right.
You just make your list out, and then you go out, and your goal always, when you do it again, is to merge the improves over to the sustains.
For sure.
Right? We need that as a culture. We need that as a society to be able to just have that line down the middle of the paper conversation where we take our emotions out of it. We take our labels and our definitions, and I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, it's something else. We need to be able to take, I don't care what anybody's title is. There are things that you do well, and there are things that you need to improve on, and we as a society need to get that put on a piece of paper.
That's right. interject and add on top of that, and I feel like this is a massive problem. I know it is, well, for everybody in their careers, everybody that they work, where everybody that has a job, this is an issue, okay? You said you had 2 columns, right? Improve and sustain. And I think that a lot of people in today's society in this workforce, they have 2 columns, but it is what are they doing and how can they improve?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it is not, you said with this list, you could help you, or you could look at your buddy and help him, right? And everybody else's list is, it's what is he doing and what could he do better? Because everybody's looking outward. Like everybody is looking at somebody else, which I don't think is a recipe for success. Because then, everybody ends up sucking.
That's right.
They have no self-accountability.
Absolutely. Because you know what? Nowadays, it's I need to be validated on the areas of my life where I need to improve.
Right.
And you are responsible for my sustained happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a problem. That is a major, major problem. And it's unsustainable as a society, right?
Yeah.
We have to be able to be, in order to get better, you have to be bad. And if nobody in our society can be weak at something or bad at something, if everything has to be validated, nothing is going to be valued.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yeah.
I
got to tell you, dude, it has been a massive, massive dose of humble pie for the last 15 months doing this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what, I'm learning, but I didn't know what I was doing. I'm still not good at it. I'm not talented for this naturally. It's something I have to work at, but I was bad and I hope to be good.
That's right.
And hopefully along the way, good things happen.
That's right.
So that's just the example that kind of popped into my mind but it's not easy.
And but it's the feedback about where we need to improve that is going to get those improves jumped over to the other side of the paper, right?
Right.
But then it's also that feedback that keeps the sustains in that column and keeps us from them slipping over into improves, right?
Right.
It's that constant cycle of feedback, humility that keeps us hungry. I mean, you look at the greats, right? Look at the greats. I read a lot of the things that Michael Jordan has written about, being great. And there's a certain amount of humility. I think today our culture may call it a chip on a person's shoulder.
Right.
But I think it's realizing that, you know what, at any point, I am capable of failure.
Right.
Right. And probably I think most great people have that because they have failed so much in their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's that history of failing that makes them open to the fact that I am capable of failing, because today everybody's a winner, right? Yeah. Nobody can fail. We're all validated in our failure.
Everyone's a winner, babe.
Yeah, that's right. But we need that. We've got to be humble. And one of the things I try to do is I show up to work every single day and say, you know what, I got to earn my job today. My job today. Yeah. If you show up to work and you say they owe me this, they owe me this, they owe me this, the company is going to go broke, because you cannot afford to have an entire workforce of people who you owe.
Right. Not only is the company going to go broke, but you are a piece of trash. Mm-hmm. If you're not. It doesn't matter how disgruntled or unhappy you are. If you are making a fair wage for what you're doing, if you're not holding up your end of the bargain, you are as much a part of the problem as the other side.
That's right. And we
also
need
jobless.
Yes.
Well, yes, and job. Yeah. So then you're a piece of trash and jobless. That's a good point.
Well, and we need people who are going to be out there saying, "Hey, boss," instead of saying, I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel valued. So I think you need to tell me how great I am when I really suck. And I think you need to also give me a whole bunch more money that I don't deserve.
Right.
We need people who go and say, hey, listen, I'd like to not be where I'm at today 5 years from now. Yeah. Can you tell me where I'm weak? Can you tell me what I need to do to get better? And then you go out and you give yourself your own pay raise. Know your value in the market and constantly be fighting to increase your personal value within your market space, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that takes to your points earlier, that takes something that this culture is lacking. I work with college students full time. Accountability, self-awareness, and willingness to be open to critique.
That's right.
So the military athletics, like what y'all were doing with the after action report, we did, when I played in college, every Sunday watching tape.
Mm-hmm.
You broke down the whole game, and then once we were done watching the game, like it was over in the past. Now we're on to the next game.
And those film sessions while you're in them, that's a pretty good roast, right?
Well, it sucks.
Everybody's got to take accountability for where they drop the ball, for where they let the team down.
That's the only thing that gets picked on. There's a couple positives that coaches try to do to make you feel good.
Rarely.
You quit. Yeah. But most of it is we have to improve here or we're going to get trashed next week.
That's right.
But you have to be open to critique. You have to be accountable to somebody. And you have to have a little bit of self-awareness, which social media and other aspects of life are not teaching us that.
That's right.
True.
That's right. We used to have
there's a filter for that. You can filter awareness out of it, Like, I took this with a trash truck back here behind me that has got dead birds all over it. Like, I can filter that out.
You can even filter out Pugly.
Pugly, dude. Yeah. Nah. Pugly is powerful, dude.
Yes.
Pugly is power, man. Real quick, dude, this has been so much fun. This has been awesome. This is actually, I'm sitting here while we're talking. I'm like, well, this is the first of many times that this happens. Like, I don't know, who knows? Maybe on the reg.
Right.
Like all every week. So one interesting fact about your career, and it can be about EHS or it could be about the company that you are currently, working with, which is a HDPE, which is high density polyethylene pipe, which if you like hot showers, if you like internet, if you like being able to poop in the toilet and it go away, if you like any of those things, like that's what HDPE is. Mm-hmm. Any kind of utility service that comes to your house or goes away from your house, that is essentially what they're doing, But an interesting fact that you think is interesting, or something that you think the people listening would find interesting, because I always love something. If you've got something that's like, no kidding, I had no idea, that kind of thought,
Right.
I'll give you it. Do you want a second to think?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can say one. I can spit one real quick while we do that. I'll just go from my line of work, which is natural gas. And one of the things that I found to be so interesting whenever I started into the field and learned was natural gas is not just natural gas. It's so many things. It's methane. It's propane. Mm-hmm. It's butane. It's ethane. It's propene. I think there's one more, but it literally all comes from the same giant deposits, and massive cavities in the ground, and it's just sucked out, and then they take all these different chemicals, and each one of them has properties that allows them to separate at different temperatures, right? Mm-hmm. So like methane, I think, separates at the coldest. I don't remember the order of things, but however it goes, it's, all right, you cool to, minus 40 degrees Celsius, and now you have butane that turns to liquid. You cool to minus 60 degrees Celsius. Now you have propane that's turning to liquid and dripping off. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fascinating. I never knew that a lighter and my furnace and my propane tank, and like all those things, they all originated at the same spot.
How can natural gas not be a renewable resource? It's got the word natural in it.
Right, yeah. Because we need to call it re-natural.
yeah, that's right.
For sure.
That's right.
Dude, we're probably going to have to wrap quick, but if you got
I do.
A cool thought.
So, I think the kind of where polyethylene pipe is going, I think it's pretty awesome. I used to work EHS in the pipeline industry, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of our pipelines are traditionally have been steel pipe. Right. And the HDPE pipe as a replacement, I think is a great option because the shelf life of it is so much longer, right? Also, fun fact, the difference between, say, HDPE pipe and PVC. PVC is made for, it's going to have resistance to heat, right? So that's what your hot water is going to come through, a lot of those kinds of things. HDPE is going to have a resistance to cold. And it also snaps back into position. So you can bend it, snap back into position. That's why it's great if you run it underground as conduit and all that, because you can put pressure on it. It's not going to break, like it's going to be brittle and snap like a metal pipe would, but it's going to just snap back into place. So it provides, safety guy's opinion is that it's a very safe product, right? It's a great product to use. I'm a huge fan of it. Also a huge fan of pipelines. I don't know if you've ever seen a big power transmission line.
That was my nickname in high school.
Pipeline?
Pipeline.
Fitting.
Sorry.
No wonder you had a girlfriend when you were 14.
Yeah, dude. Nailed it.
Yeah.
And she's stuck, and she's still with me.
She's still with you. So, all right.
For sure.
All right. That's a good testimony right there.
Yeah, you bet, dude. Hey, Drew, thanks for joining, man. This has been awesome. It's
absolutely
been exactly what I hoped it would be. Of course, we always have great fun talking.
Well, I tell you what, let's get together again, and I've got a topic for us.
Okay.
I want us to have a deep dive into leadership.
Absolutely.
It's been very topical with me lately. It's something I've been thinking about and really looking into. And I think there's a lot of things we can kind of continue to go back to some of my story, right? But I think this is a great time in our society, especially in light of a lot of the things we talked about tonight, to go into, okay, leadership is the next step.
Right.
That's what's going to get us from where we're at now out of a lot of this quagmire and this mess. So, yeah, I'm going to throw that out there. I think maybe, viewers, listeners, start throwing some questions in there, or maybe some ideas, some things that, you'd like for us to cover along the topic of leadership. We're in an election year. I think it would be a great just kind of community discussion for us to take up.
For sure, man. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I'm totally in. That would be this could go a million different directions.
Yep, no doubt.
And but unfortunately, we only had just limited amount of time tonight. But this has been sick, dude.
Love it.
Thanks for coming and doing it. Can't wait to do it again, man.
Anytime.
Fascinating, interesting, and love you, bro.
Love you too, man.
Peace.